Our newsroom in New York. In color, this is the CBS Evening News with Charles Carrault substituting for Walter Cronkite. And Marvin Kalb in Washington. George Sievertson in Quan Loy, South Vietnam. Joe Bartlemy in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Bill McLaughlin in Vienna. Bob Simon in Londonderry, Northern Ireland. And Robert Dougal in Londonderry.
Good evening. It's commonplace to think of Ireland as a single nation without borders, but Ireland is divided between the Republic in the south, which is mostly Roman Catholic, and the 6 counties of the north, which are predominantly Protestant and part of the United Kingdom. The Catholics in the north are outnumbered 2-to-1 by the Protestants, and they claim they are subject to discrimination in jobs, housing, and voting. Since Tuesday, Catholics and Protestants have fought each other in the streets of Northern Ireland, principally in Londonderry. Today, Londonderry police requested help from Britain, and hundreds of British troops moved in, bringing barbed wire and machine guns to the city. At the same time, the Irish Republic sent 600 troops to the Northern Ireland frontier as a safeguard. From Londonderry, Bob Simon reports on some of the street fighting that preceded the arrival of the British troops.
This is the Catholic stronghold. The 30-odd people on this roof have been creating more problems for the police below than the hundreds of Catholics massed behind the barricades. An improvised catapult beside the tricolor of the Irish Republic launches everything from bricks and bottles to the familiar firebombs. Every time a policeman is hit, the crowd cheers. The police can do little to retaliate. Many of the guerrillas here are hardly 12 years old. They're having the time of their lives. A few are well into middle age and seem to be acting out of an instinctive bitterness that defies articulation. Several are young and serious and see an important political impulse behind this siege of Londonderry. How do you think it's all going to end? How long is it going to last?
I hope it lasts a long time. As long as we get a good... it depends how long it's going to take to get a decent government in here. We want the union aside. We want a liberal government in.
And the siege here is going to last until that happens?
The siege is going to last until that happens, we hope.
Could be years.
It could be years, but we'll do it.
In the streets below, the gas has been a constant presence for over 24 hours. People try to protect themselves as best they can, but eyes are swollen and red, voices are hoarse, there is much coughing and retching. The question is how long the police can last. Very few have had any sleep for almost 2 days. Over 100 have been injured. As the fighting scatters from the familiar setting to the dark downtown streets, the mood changes. Somehow, everything has changed. This is no longer another Londonderry free-for-all. Many terms are on many lips. Civil war, revolution, people's rebellion, wars of religion. It's too early to tell. It may be none of these things, but things have changed. Bob Simon, CBS News, Londonderry.
Tonight, truckloads of armed British troops drove into Londonderry. Steel-helmeted and carrying machine guns and rifles, they set up barbed wire barricades on the edges of riot-torn Bogside. Almost immediately, the violence died down, for the first time in just over 50 hours. The people of the district welcomed the troops, singing and cheering as they moved into position. As the barricades went up, the weary squads of police began to withdraw. A British Army spokesman in Northern Ireland said a strength of 3 companies was involved, about 300 men. The Home Office in London said the GOC Northern Ireland had been instructed to take steps to restore law and order. The troops would be withdrawn as soon as this was accomplished.
Can the right denture cleanser really make a difference? Just listen to Mrs. Wilma Felder, a denture wearer.
There really is a difference. I feel so confident and so sure of myself. Now that I know my dentures are really clean and odor-free, thanks to Polident tablets.
Polident, a revolutionary tablet that really fights denture stain and odor, with an exclusive combination of active cleansing ingredients and effervescing oxygen action. See this bar of denture material? It's covered with a tough food stain. Drop it into warm water with a Polident effervescent tablet, and instantly, the power-packed oxygen whiteners start to clean. Scrub stain and odor safely away. In only minutes, your dentures are cleaner, brighter, fresher. Polident tablets really make a difference.
And now, a special offer. Get this all-new denture bath, free in either economy or giant-sized Polident tablets.
In Vietnam, most of today's fighting was again concentrated near the Cambodian border. The sharpest clash involving Americans occurred in an abandoned rubber plantation 2 miles northeast of Loc Ninh. 35 enemy troops were reported killed. No American lives were lost, but 5 men were wounded. On Tuesday, enemy soldiers staged attacks throughout South Vietnam in the heaviest fighting in months. One of their targets was an American camp at Quan Loy. George Sievertson reports.
It was a well-planned and almost flawlessly executed infiltration. Dozens of the North Vietnamese soldiers were inside the wire and in some cases behind the bunkers on the line before the defenders were aware that their defense perimeter had been breached. The enemy clipped a path through the concertina wire in the dark. Trip flares designed to be set off by the slightest bit of pressure were rendered harmless by the simple expedient of a rubber band to keep it from arming itself. Each of the NVA wore a bracelet of rubber bands for the purpose. When the shooting began, the American infantrymen were thrown into confusion, but not panic. The chaos behind the defense line was such that Specialist 4, Albert R. Joines of St. Louis, Missouri, mistook one of the English-speaking attackers for one of his own men.
Well, he came up from behind us and when we were getting mortared, and I thought that he was just ducking in beside the road there so that he could keep away from the mortars. And then he yelled at me, and then he asked me what bunker that mine was, and I told him that was bunker 72. And at that time he shot a B-40 in there. At our bunker, there was 4 of us laying on top of it, and we had like a little hooch built on top of it, and this log, it kept it from coming in there and getting us last night.
You figured he was a GI?
Right. There was 2 of them, and this one, he talked perfect English, but I told this one guy of mine to keep an eye on him anyway, because I didn't feel too awful comfortable up there. And he wasn't friendly after all.
Some of the infiltrators even got into the headquarters area, only a stone's throw from the Brigade Tactical Operations Center. There they were stopped by a small group of medics led by Specialist 5 Alan Sedam of New Boston, Illinois.
These zappers they use now, they haven't got any sense, if you ask me. They're just crazy. Nothing will stop them hardly. They just drive on through anything. It's just almost unstoppable. We shot some of them last night, I don't know how many times, and they'd still be crawling on down this way, and they're just hard to stop. I don't know what drives them.
PFC Bobby Cooper of Arlington, Virginia, also ran out of the medic's tent into the middle of the firefight.
I don't want to go through it again. It was getting kind of bad there for me when I saw different people falling around me, my friends, fellow medics falling. This morning, when we started rushing through the area, you're still getting sniper pot shots at us. It was getting, but really the part that would be most scary to me was when the Chi-Com landed right here at the doorway and seeing him kicked it away, because I thought that would be it for everybody.
5 of the 8 medics were wounded and evacuated to the hospitals. For most of these soldiers, the new series of attacks did not represent the end of the lull in the war. For them, the lull never existed.
About 18 spools of wire. Yeah. Bring back some small pickets and some 8-foot pickets.
George Sievertson, CBS News, Quang Loy.
At San Clemente, California, White House News Secretary Ronald Ziegler said today President Nixon is watching very carefully the upsurge in fighting in Vietnam. Ziegler said it might have an impact on the president's plans for more American troop withdrawals. At the Paris peace talks, the United States and South Vietnam denounced the renewed enemy attacks as preparation for a new offensive. The weekly Vietnam casualty list issued today showed 96 Americans killed in battle last week. That is the lowest total in 2 years, but it doesn't reflect the stepped-up enemy activity that began earlier this week. 225 Vietnamese troops were reported killed last week. and 2,214 enemy soldiers. In Washington, the Pentagon said it has confirmed that 47 Americans listed as missing in Vietnam are now known to be alive and in North Vietnamese prisons. This information came from 3 American servicemen released by Hanoi last week, as well as from other sources.
Daddy!
My baby. Oh, baby. Your relatives and I wanted to get together and give you something a little bit extra to start off your life with Porter.
No, that's Peter.
You're right. Anyway, look here. Look.
Oh, S&H green stamp.
Now you can choose just what you need. Look at this. Look at the lovely patio furniture.
We only have a one-room apartment.
Oh, look at this nice boat.
We live miles from any water.
Oh, and look at this lovely nursery furniture, huh?
Oh, we've only been married for an hour.
Well, all right, you'll save them. I mean, there'll come a time you'll need something, and you may not have the money, especially since you married Piper.
That's Peter.
Yeah, well, whatever. Just use the S&H green stamps. We thought there wasn't a better thing that we could get you considering.
Considering what?
Considering Porter, Peter, Piper, him. Oh.
S&H green stamps. The more you lick 'em, the more you like 'em.
Congressman Peter Rodino of New Jersey criticized today as rather outrageous the treatment of 8 soldiers held in Vietnam in the Green Beret murder case. The soldiers are imprisoned in connection with the death of a Vietnamese who reportedly acted as a double agent, working for both United States and North Vietnamese intelligence. Rodino based his charge on telephoned information from one of the men, Captain Robert Morosco of Bloomfield, New Jersey, a town in Rodino's district. The congressman spoke at a news conference.
I was shocked to learn from Captain Morosco that he is in solitary confinement in a 5-by-7-foot cell all of the day long, 24 hours a day, with 1 hour during which they may be allowed to get some fresh air, with nothing to do. It was surprising to me that Captain Morosco still retained his dignity as a soldier and stated that his only complaint was that he didn't have a job to do, that he felt that this was a terrible restriction, and certainly he's not a dangerous criminal. He's not one who is about to run away, and for this reason, I have now, and I'm addressing a communication to Secretary of Defense Laird, asking that this matter of releasing Captain Morosco and the others from this kind of confinement be acted upon with the most immediate urgency, because I think it's shocking to every American who recognizes that these men are part of an elite corps who have had outstanding careers and are treated in this reprehensible way.
Raise the case of the imprisoned Green Berets, and most officials here clam up, sensing as only bureaucrats can the unfolding of high-level scandal. But this much seems to have emerged in talks here. First, that a follow-up order not to kill the Vietnamese courier was apparently received before the assassination was attempted. And second, that the courier, known to be a double agent, was connected with secret efforts on both sides to arrange a political solution to the war. When this was discovered, the order to stop the assassination was issued, but mysteriously not acted upon. The suspicion has thus grown that the diplomats and the generals might have been working at cross purposes. Marvin Kalb, CBS News, Washington.
AFL-CIO President George Meany tonight came out against some key features of President Nixon's welfare reform proposals. Meany said he likes the goal of improving the lot of the poor worker and job seeker, but the plan falls far short of the need. Meany charged that Mr. Nixon's approach would amount to a federal subsidy for cheap labor for the worst employers and would force poor people to go into training for jobs that don't exist. He said raising the minimum wage would be a better idea. Meany's opposition could mean trouble for the plan in Congress. The Nixon administration today criticized the tax reform bill passed by the House. Treasury Secretary David Kennedy, speaking at the dedication of the new Philadelphia Mint, said the bill still contains loopholes which would permit some millionaires to escape taxes. And he said it may not produce enough money for the government. WCAU-TV covered the speech.
The administration is going to suggest that certain changes be made in the bill in the Senate. In some areas, it does not seem to go far enough. In others, it may go a little too far. Certain changes made by the House to President Nixon's tax preference proposal would permit some millionaires to go without paying, or by paying little or no taxes. Furthermore, on balance, the bill as it now stands may go too far in reducing revenue. But the fact remains that we must guard against the potentially dangerous impact in the latter years of the tax cut that is now being enacted. Even if the surtax is extended through next June, or next year, as the President has recommended, there will still be substantial revenue losses showing up in the fiscal 1971 revenue and thereafter as a result.
Averages on the New York Stock Exchange advanced today on a volume of 9,700,000 shares. The New York Exchange Index gained 30 cents. The American Exchange Index was up 22 cents.
Ever have one of those days when you couldn't seem to get with it? When you felt all hooky and out of it?
I'm only going as far as Fort Lauderdale.
Oh. You might have had a case of the blahs. Fortunately, there's something you can do about the blahs. Alka-Seltzer soothes the minor stomach upsets and relieves the half headaches before they become whole headaches. With Alka-Seltzer, you can beat the blahs before they beat you.
Women today don't just sit around. A lot of us do 2 jobs, home and career. And we're expected to make it look easy. That's why the 2-job pill was invented, for the 2-job woman. 1-a-day vitamins plus iron. It does 2 jobs. It gives you the vitamins you need if you're too busy to eat right, and it gives you the extra iron women need, nearly twice as much as a man. You don't sit around, 2-job woman. So take the 2-job pill. 1-a-day vitamins plus iron.
The first anniversary of the Soviet invasion of Czechoslovakia is only a week away, and today the Czech government announced that it fears serious trouble and that the army and people's militia will be placed on standby to prevent it. The Russians also know what week it is. They are said to be sending more troops into Czechoslovakia from East Germany and holding military exercises in border areas. Since last year's invasion, many Czechs have found their way to a political refugee camp near Vienna and are waiting there until they can be resettled in new homes. Bill McLaughlin visited the camp.
The song is Yugoslav, but it could be in any East European language. It is about leaving the homeland and going off to the new world. If it doesn't sound very joyful, it is because these are political refugees, men and women who decided to look for new homes in new countries when life became unbearable. The song also conveys the emotion of saying goodbye to friends and relatives, probably for good. These people at the Treiskirchen refugee camp, a few miles south of Vienna, are saying goodbye to an old way of life and working up courage to face the new in the United States. Franz Mesteski, his wife and 3 children are among those leaving. They lived through the Soviet invasion a year ago and watched as the young Czechoslovak democracy was slowly and carefully crushed. Then they decided it was time to go. A Catholic charity has found them a home in New York. Franz's biggest worry now is to learn English. Treiskirchen was once the Imperial Cadet School under the Habsburg Empire. It was opened as a refugee camp during the abortive Hungarian uprising in 1956 and has remained open ever since. There are too many refugees and not enough beds. Often a dozen families have to work out the problem of how to share the same room. The food is 1 notch above substandard. Soup, stew, and noodles or potatoes make up the average menu. There's not much to do at Treiskirchen except sit and wait for some country to accept the immigration application. Most wait 3 to 6 months. A few have been here for years and have given up hoping. Memories of what the old life was like are strong. Understandably, many refugees are afraid to have their pictures taken or give out their names. The friends and relatives they left behind might suffer. Fortunately for most of the refugees, the Treiskirchen story ends with a bus ride to Vienna airport and a ticket to a new land. The Mesteski family is now too worried about what life in the U.S. has in store to waste time remembering the past. which is just how most refugees have felt ever since the Mayflower headed in the general direction of North America. Bill McLaughlin, CBS News at Vienna Airport.
10 white teachers today lost their federal suit charging the Newark, New Jersey School Board with reverse discrimination. Negroes, some of them with less seniority and allegedly lower test scores than whites, got 20 of the 55 available school administration posts last year. The judge upheld the Newark School Board, saying that even though race was a factor in the appointments, there's evidence that the board's main purpose was the educational welfare of school children. In the last election, the traditionally liberal voters of Minneapolis chose a law and order candidate as mayor. Now, that new mayor is facing his first showdown on that issue. It grows out of a dispute in which Washington has ordered the money stopped for a $400,000 anti-poverty program involving 4 community centers. But local poverty officials say they're going to ignore the order. Joe Bartlemy of WCCO-TV reports.
The issue is a militant handling federal poverty funds. Black militant Matthew Eubanks, director of the Citizen Centers, last week disrupted and took over a meeting of the city's urban coalition. He said the white establishment isn't doing enough to help the poor. He proclaimed a people's coalition. 4 days later, the government chopped off the funding program for Eubanks centers. The government's charge, disrupting a public meeting. And so, the centers, which provide welfare services, are in their last days. 80 poverty employees will be out of work. But even the Urban Coalition said that disrupting its meeting wasn't enough. Last night, at a meeting of all poverty agencies in the city, Eubanks declared he'll fight for his programs and sarcastically challenged the OEO to place more substantial charges against him.
I haven't killed any babies. I haven't accepted payoffs, from night joints over in North Minneapolis, while I was a beat patrolman. I've not raped little children.
Early this morning, Eubanks and followers, estimated at 200, staged a rally on the city's north side. For the first time, they challenged the new law and order regime of Mayor Charles Stenvig. It was no contest. Police ordered Plymouth Avenue cleared, and many didn't move. Eight persons were arrested, charged with unlawful assembly and failure to obey police orders. Eubanks moved out when the police moved in. There were no injuries. 2 firebombs were tossed, but there was no damage. And so the city, which has less than 16,000 blacks, weathered another night of potential crisis.
The avenue is quiet today, but no one can predict how long that's going to last. Meanwhile, we've learned that the federal government is offering to restore services, providing Matthew Eubanks is ousted and the citizen centers are eliminated. No takers are expected. This is Joe Bartlemy in Minneapolis.
3 Chicago Democratic Party workers, all of them city employees, were charged today with buying the votes of Skid Row bums. The federal indictment is the first of its type under the 1965 Voting Rights Act. A prosecutor said the case involves the purchase of several hundred votes last year for $2 apiece. The indictment accuses 2 city sewer workers and a policewoman. Philip Bleiberg is back in the hospital. Bleiberg is 60, and he's the world's longest surviving heart transplant patient. But his condition has deteriorated, and so today he had to go back to Karuta Skier Hospital in Cape Town. He was given his transplanted heart January 2nd, 1968. A Northeast Airlines jet was hijacked to Havana today. It was supposed to be a flight from Boston to Miami, but it became the 39th airliner hijacked this year.
Flashing raindrops, looking for rainbows high on a hilltop, and suddenly, suspended in space, the top of the world is our special place where we play. Hey, 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 what a good time. The good taste of Kent was meant for a day like today.
Would
good times invented for the good taste of Kent? All we know is wherever the good times are, millions of smokers are thinking, hey, what a good time for a Kent.
What a good time for a Kent.
Zond 7, the unmanned Russian probe that looped the moon Monday on a photo mapping mission, returned to Earth today. The Apollo 11 astronauts flew home to Houston today aboard the presidential jet for a couple of days' relaxation with their families. At last night's state dinner in Los Angeles, Neil Armstrong, visibly touched by a day of cheering crowds, expressed his thanks to the American people. Most of those people must have been asleep by then. In case you were, here's what he said.
I was struck this morning in New York by a proudly waved but uncarefully scribbled sign. Said, "Through you, we touched the moon." Through you, we touched the moon. It was our privilege today, across the country, to touch America. I suspect that perhaps the most warm, genuine feeling that all of us could receive came through the cheers and shouts and most of all the smiles of our fellow Americans. We hope and think that those people shared our belief that this is the beginning of a new era. The beginning of an era when man understands the universe around him, and the beginning of the era when man understands himself.
The three astronauts will make an exclusive appearance this Sunday in a special one-hour version of CBS News Face the Nation with Walter Cronkite as moderator. This is Charles Kuralt. Good night.